Hi and welcome to another 5-minute session, and this time about an introduction to dynamic paint. And dynamic paint is really good when you have one object that should influence the material on another object, and you use it for things like if you have like a boat and that goes over the ocean, you would like those waves to be around that boat when it goes around. So that is a typical example of dynamic paint. So how does it work? Well, you need some type of canvas, and that is what you paint on. And then you need a brush, and that is what you paint with. So we have the canvas, and that will be our plane in this case. And to make it a dynamic paint canvas, you need to go to physics. So in the physics, you have dynamic paint, and you just select that one. And here we have a type, canvas or brush, and we would like to paint on our plane, so it will be a canvas. Then you must select add canvas, and you can then select the format, and that could be vertex or image sequence. If it's vertex, you need high poly because it will paint on the faces of your object. If you have image sequence, you don't need high poly, because then it will paint every pixel on the image, so to say. So it's not depending on the faces. However, in our case, we will work with high poly and vertex, because then we get a good and fast real-time result. And then you should see this as paint, which means that you have a lot of effects in here, and you can do stuff like spread it, rip it, shrink, and so on, but I will not go through it. But in the end, you also have output, and that is where we save the information. And in our case, we will save it as vertex colors, and either you have done vertex colors already, and then you can select that in a list, or you have not, and then you just press the plus sign here, and it will be created for you. So if I go to the data and go to color attributes, you can now see that we have a DP paint map that was created because I pressed the plus sign. So that is where everything is saved. And now when we have the canvas ready, we need a brush. And we can use whatever we want. So I just use the UV sphere. So I press Shift A, Mesh, and a UV sphere, and I shrink it by pressing S and Control A and scale. So I apply the scale here, and that will then be the brush, which means that I go out now again to the physics, press the dynamic paint, but use the type of brush because I will paint with this. And then I select add brush, and here I have what type of source it should be, and it could be mesh volume, it could be proximity and mesh volume, or object center or particle system. Yes, you can paint even with particles. And mesh volume, that is everything that is inside our mesh. Mesh volume and proximity, the inside and also a bit outside. And proximity is just outside. So if I start with proximity, then we will not paint inside this, but we'll paint outside. And we put a distance of 0.1, for instance, just to start with. Then we have something here, and if I now press rendered view, we don't have any material, so we go to the plane here, and we need to put in that DP paint that we created. So we press Shift A, press input, and in input we have then the, let's see if we can find it, color attribute. And if you select the list, you can see we have DP paint map. So I can take just the color to this, and you can see now that we have black here because we don't get any information from the DP paint map. And the reason for that is that we don't have any polygons on this plane. So if I press tab and then I right click, subdivide, and let's say I select 100 here, and then I get back again, you can see I get blue here. And I get blue because if I go back to the paint we have done here, so then you can see in, let's select this one first, the brush, you can see the paint color. So I can change the paint color here. So normally if you just work with your own material, you might just want white or black, but in other cases you might want some color. So then you can just put in the paint color that you want. And then the size outside of this, you decide in the distance. So if it's 0.2, you get a wider distance. You don't need just one. You can use as a brush, you can use many brushes. So if I press Shift D, you can see that I get a lot of different brushes here. And you can also see that it changes in real time. So when I move, these things move around. And everything is then unique for this brush. So if I increase the distance to 0.3 for this, it only for this brush that changes. So that is how it works. And this is just the base of it. It's a very powerful tool. You can use with particles, you can use it with displacement, you can use it with colors, you can do a lot of stuff with it. But this is a good base. So you just create a vertex color, connect the color attribute, can use that to see if something gets influenced, and just paint it in whatever way you want it in your material. So now you have some introduction to this, and 5 minutes is gone, so I just say bye for now. I hope you learned something, and see you tomorrow.